Chapter 14. Follow the money. If America's enemies reach their goal and this nation falls into third world status, because our left-wing, anti-American politicians bed down with them, bankrupt us and print so much fiat money that the dollar becomes worthless, inflation goes off the charts, our standard of living gets worse than where all the migrant caravans are coming from, and Americans have to start swimming the Rio Grande River to seek a better life in Mexico. And if those on the dark side are able to sufficiently thwart religion, a necessary component to their overall goals, what happens next is or should be the subject of great concern among Christians, and should likewise be of great concern to all Americans. The United States has never been exposed to such intense propaganda via our free press, which is protected by the First Amendment to the Constitution. But they have abused the privilege they used to have journalistic integrity and patriotism. Now the majority of our free press is nothing more than a collection of leftist shills for those who would see America no longer free, prosperous, or leader of the free world. In 1983, America's news outlets were owned by 50 companies. Now our media are controlled by 6 very powerful companies who dominate 90% of what we read, watch, or listen to. That's enough to create a majority vote for their left-wing agenda by controlling what we know. Unfortunately, too many people in America still believe what they hear and see on television, and that explains why the press has become a very important tool of the left. Because they know that if you control the flow of information, you control public opinion. If you control public opinion, you control the public. If you control the public, you control the country. As far back as the 18th century, Scottish philosopher David Hume taught that all government rests on public opinion. But that opinion, I maintain, is not the bedrock of government. Public opinion itself rests on something deeper, fear. Therefore, the media no longer tell you what's happening. They craft their propaganda to manipulate what you think and to keep you afraid, or confused, or deflect your attention from what it is to what they want it to be. A good example of this is what Hillary Clinton did in her campaign for the presidency against Donald Trump. In other words, the fake dossier. The claim that Trump was colluding with Russia because Putin wanted him to win. All this was done by Clinton to shift the focus of the American people away from her criminal acts and keep herself out of jail after she deleted 30,000 emails on her illegal server, wiped her computer's hard drive with BleachBit, and destroyed several BlackBerry cell phones that had been subpoenaed by Congress. In other words, she had committed several felonies. A CNN staffer has been caught on tape admitting the network worked hard to get Donald Trump out of office. In normal circles, that could be called election interference. We've never had so much at stake until recent years, nor have we had such blatant attacks on our political, cultural, or corporate institutions, faith, history, educational system, economy, etc. So what? Think, for example, about how often discussions about China pervade our news broadcasts. China, as we already know, is a communist country, one of the few in the world, and they are very, very busy buying up ports all over the world, creating man-made islands in the South China Sea which can be used for military purposes, manipulating currency, juicing up viruses and releasing them on the world, buying up American farmland, getting positions in American businesses, putting illegal research labs in California, and influencing our educational institutions, to name a few fronts in their unrestricted warfare to displace America as the world's sole superpower and take the top tier on the podium. China wants to destroy us in every way possible, and they are aggressively seeking to undermine everything about America, from the dollar to our world image, from democracy to the church. Remember, since communists are atheists, they push to destroy religion. Karl Marx's Communist Manifesto introduced the protocol now used by intellectual progeny of the German writer who, with or without his help, made the idea of socialism so useful to Satan he is now using it to reach his goals of world domination under a one-world government and a one-world religion as pointed out above. Scholars differ on what the one-world religion might be. Some think it could be Islam, and there are plenty of indicators that certainly seem to support that theory. Think about it. A religion whose deity says to kill everybody who refuses to bow down to their God. That sounds considerably more like Satan than the Christian God, so the claim Muslims make that Allah and the God of the Bible are both the same is absurd. But others argue that the one-world religion could be the Catholic Church. A Detroit-based group calling itself Church Militant has reported extensively about the Catholic clergy being replete with homosexuals, that fully half of priests and bishops are gay, and that satanic rituals have been practiced in the bowels of the Vatican. If it's true and the church has become that corrupted, it may be possible the church Jesus established through his disciple, Peter, will have the predicted role recorded in Bible prophecy. And a revived Roman Empire is commonly associated with the fourth beast spoken of in the book of Daniel, which is described as terrifying and frightening and very powerful. Satan has not concentrated only on the Catholics. He's got the major denominations of the Christian religion succumbing to the woke ideology. 2. Some denominations of the Methodists, the Anglicans, the Episcopalians, Presbyterians, and other denominations of organized religion have gone woke and have even ordained homosexuals as priests and preachers. Even the Southern Baptist elites have taken a bite of that apple. Regardless, it's anybody's guess as to the accuracy of these claims and predictions. But those with a biblical worldview certainly believe it. At this point, despite the world being rife with indicators that we are living in the end times, we're simply in a holding pattern and waiting to see. But it doesn't go unnoticed that Christians are harassed, criticized, and hated. Far more than Muslims, but take comfort that Jesus himself said his followers would be hated by everyone because of him. Atheist/communist China, the only country unilaterally capable of fielding a 200 million man army, the army predicted to fight at Armageddon, showed considerable interest in our election. They needed to overturn Donald Trump's presidency because he had made them behave. He instituted an America First policy, opposed globalism, favored nationalism, was incorruptible, was too rich to be bribed, called the Chinese out on their currency manipulation and trade imbalance, and China has a lot in common with their globalist friends who see socialism as a handy and desirable tool when paired with a Great Reset and creating a great way of controlling and subjugating the people of the world. The Chinese Communist Party needed to get Trump out of office. He was bad for business, their business, and globalist ideals. China, working with Russia and Iran, jointly spent $300 million worldwide to influence elections, including in the United States. They have managed to gain considerable influence in a host of American businesses by buying up stocks, making mergers, and buying whole businesses. They are following a very devious plan to displace us by doing so. Along with radical leftist/globalist/billionaire George Soros, Mexican billionaire Carlos Slim bought a substantial interest in the New York Times newspaper. Two billionaires with an axe to grind with America. One with a seat at the table in the World Economic Forum, and the other with business interests in China. Both now have the cooperation of the New York Times, which often criticized President Trump and spread propaganda about his administration. Mr. Slim has regularly conducted business with Chinese companies with overt ties to the Chinese Communist Party, CCP. Jeff Bezos bought the Washington Post newspaper for $250 million cash. Bezos has direct ties to the Chinese business market and wants to operate Amazon in China. Here's the kicker. The CCP regulates Chinese businesses. Does the Washington Post do favors for China? Yes. It has distributed Chinese propaganda through an insert in their paper. The Post was also a constant thorn in Donald Trump's side. This can't be a coincidence.